A big thing you might notice about 90s mid-budget action movies is the prominence of the sci-fi action film, a synthesis of the cop and military movies that were a staple of 80s cinema, and the sword and sorcery adventure films that were firmly associated with the 1970s. Buddy cop movie, but there's an alien. Serial killer psychological thriller, but there's virtual reality and cyborgs. It was a way to stick with proven box office successes while still trying to keep the genre feeling fresh. This culminated in the ultimate 90s action movie, a cyberpunk film starring a young Keanu Reeves, made by anime-obsessed weebs and heavily inspired by Neuromancer, that wrestled with ontological questions in the face of lives lived increasingly in a digital space. I am of course referring to Johnny Mnemonic. Yes, in case you didn't know, 4 years before Keanu Reeves starred as the hapless protagonist in a mind-bending sci-fi American cinema take on anime alongside a black cultural icon, Keanu Reeves starred as a hapless protagonist in a mind-bending sci-fi American cinema take on an anime alongside a black cultural icon that made nowhere near as much money. And that I like this one a lot more.
Oh man, you are fucked up severe.
I'm not going to poo-poo The Matrix. At my most contrarian, I might say it is slightly overpraised, but it was a great action movie and one of the most notable game changers in cinema history. In fact, my real problem with The Matrix is that all the 90s action weirdness I know and love stopped when everyone collectively decided that recapturing the magic of The Matrix was the only thing the film industry would do for the next 5 years. I don't think I'm being too dramatic when I say that, in some small way, the 90s ended after The Matrix was released in 1999.
No shit.
Johnny Mnemonic, on the other hand, is planted firmly in the decade. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse.
Access denied. Access granted.
The first bit of historical context that needs explaining to understand Johnny Mnemonic is Reeves himself. More meme now than man, Keanu's reputation for being a sweetheart has long since permeated the context of any acting role he takes. Today, Keanu can play anything from a mass murderer to a sex pest and still brings the inherent likability of being Keanu Reeves.
You're breathtaking!
Even when Keanu plays an absolute asshole, it's done for laughs. Oh, could you imagine? God's little angel Keanu Reeves being mean and self-absorbed. What an amusing concept.
Double cheese anchovies?
In 1995, this guy had no such reputation. He was famous for playing Ted Theodore Logan and then trying to reinvent himself as a Shakespearean theater actor, and trust me when I say the public was not buying into that.
Have not a dude eyes? If you prick us, do we not get bummed?
So when I say that the titular Johnny Keanu Reeves plays in this movie is an unrepentant asshole, I mean that the protagonist is an asshole without a single drop of irony mixed into the performance. Reeves plays a ridiculous man who regards himself with deadly seriousness.
You see that city over there? That's where I'm supposed to be. Not down here with the dogs and the garbage and the fucking last month's newspapers blowing back and forth! I've had it with them! I've had it with you! I've had it with all this! I want room service! I want the club sandwich! I want the cold Mexican beer! I want a $10,000 a night hooker!
You're going to hear that reaction from me a lot while discussing Johnny Mnemonic. This movie is absolutely delightful. The core premise is pretty simple. It's the cyberpunk 90s future and illicit data smuggling is big business. Keanu Reeves plays Johnny, a man who dug out a piece of his own brain to fit an implant he uses to store information and transport it illegally in exchange for large sums of money. Effectively, he's traded his memories of his past for the allure of a lavish lifestyle, and by the time we meet him, he's already decided it's a bad deal.
If I just wanted the silicon dug out of my back brain, I could go to Mexico City. I want a full restoration. I want it all back.
So Johnny has to do one last job to afford a procedure to get out of business and get his childhood back, and a big ol' anti-capitalist metaphor for the conflict between human existence and the clockwork man catered to people who thought RoboCop was just too dang subtle. This is 13 years after the release of Blade Runner. American mainstream cinema was in no way a stranger to the themes explored in Johnny's character arc. But something that was unique to the mid-90s was a fascination with the digital life aspect of developing technology, in which people had an identity of ones and zeros on this newfangled internet contraption that was equal to, and sometimes greater than their identity in the physical world. Yes, I know explaining this concept in 2024 is like talking about a sudden cultural fascination with a type of carriage that is pulled not by horse, but gears and pistons. Anyone listening to me who was born after 1995 has probably already scrolled past this to watch a shorter video with reused music. But if you look at movies like The Net, Lawnmower Man, or Virtuosity, you can see that this idea that is just day-to-day reality now was as much a hot-button topic of doomer speculation as AI is today. Where other movies at the time were starting to dip their toe into the digital identity pool, Johnny Mnemonic dives right into the deep end. There's virtual reality, off-the-grid groups of countercultural radicals, a CEO transfers her consciousness into a computer upon her death and turns into a new digital life form that may or may not be Johnny's forgotten mother. At one point, Johnny even gets catfished.
Are you?
Certainly. I'll be there.
I want to negotiate.
Yes, sir.
Yes, the metonym of a corporate puppet serves as a metaphor here by being a literal corporate puppet because that is how this movie rolls.
No shit.
And of course, like any good high-concept movie with Midland studio confidence, Johnny Mnemonic's reach far exceeds its budget.
Intruder alert! Intruder alert!
Not that Johnny Mnemonic was a cheap movie for the time. It had a budget of about $26 million, where a big summer tentpole movie would have over $100, but it was certainly not a quiet little indie film. I think the issue is more that the technology in 1995 just wasn't there for showing the visuals that the movie wanted to borrow from the William Gibson novel in which it's based. In fact, I think one of the reasons that The Matrix took off and Johnny Mnemonic didn't was that at the end of the decade, VFX were just starting to get to a place where the movies could visually take you down the roads that the cyberpunk genre wants to go. That said, I wouldn't raise Johnny Mnemonic's budget $1, and not just because I know it only made $19 million back.
Where's the bathroom?
Oh, Jesus! Jesus, shit!
The fakey-looking sets and incredibly dated CGI are a big part of the charm. The performances are wacky, the side characters are colorful. This is a manga, this is a cartoon. It's supposed to feel a little unreal. On the topic of unreality, Dina Meyer plays the second lead in this film, and she does something very interesting in it. She plays a woman with cybernetic enhancements and a degenerative nervous condition looking to make a name for herself as a bodyguard who meets Johnny during his last job gone sideways and sees an opportunity for a big payday. The thing is, among all the cranked up to 11 obvious parody aspects of this movie, Meyer plays it weirdly subdued and emotional, like she's the only real person amongst all the cartoon characters.
Well, what do you think about when you're alone?
I think I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need a computer!
It just grounds the film slightly away from being all crack all the time in a way that greatly benefits it while still feeling kind of sad. And she did the exact same thing in both Starship Troopers and The Movie Hero. What a strangely specific kind of typecasting. Not to mention that the humanity she brings to the performance matches up so well with Keanu's unfettered douchebaggery.
Well, you got parents and stuff?
You got parents and stuff?
Which I cannot overstate is absolutely delightful. It might not be traditional romantic chemistry, but it's certainly a kind of chemistry, and it does well enough to carry the emotional core of the film. I mentioned the colorful side characters, and woo boy does this movie not fuck around in that regard.
Hit me.
First off, you have Dolph Lundgren, who is the best part of any 90s movie if you aren't aware, playing a cybernetic hired killer and self-described prophet, and he knew exactly the kind of movie he was making.
I need your services.
We hold services nightly. You need someone brought to Jesus?
Of vomit and filthiness.
Hold, sinners! Come to Jesus, you spawn of Satan!
I'm not exaggerating when I say Lundgren serves zero narrative purpose in this film. The corporate interest chasing Johnny during this whole movie already hired a Yakuza enforcer who acts as the heavy. There is already a ticking clock element established in that the amount of information in Johnny's implant is too much for him to safely hold that he needs to transfer it within 24 hours. Lundgren adds nothing except his Dolphy charms, and that is absolutely worth every second he is on camera.
And who is this lost soul?
They also have Henry Rollins playing Henry Rollins, but he does it so well that sometimes his performance tricks me into believing Henry Rollins is just a character in the original book. Okay, Henry, just angrily sum up the entirety of the themes and background plot of the movie while knocking things over.
This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves. Technological fucking civilization. But we still have all this shit because we can't live without it.
I think nowadays Rollins is as well known for his acting, essays, and other performances as he is for his music. But back when Johnny Mnemonic was released, he was still just the lead singer of hardcore punk group Black Flag to anyone who would even recognize him at all. So at the time, this was some deeply strange stunt casting that happened to pay off when it turned out Henry was also a solid actor.
I'll make sure just Johnny gets to see who he needs to see.
Then you have Ice-T playing the leader of the Low-Techs, a commune of anti-technology countercultural extras. While you definitely see him and feel his presence throughout the plot of the film, Ice-T's character has a big payoff in the climax when the studio calls him back in to ADR an explanation of the final sequence because test audiences couldn't figure out what the hell was going on.
That's the double. Don't worry.
You got Udo Kier at his absolute Udoist. I mentioned the heavy, played by Dennis Akiyama, who continues to show he deserves the John Lone Award for Asian actors who should have been utilized more by major studios. And don't get me started on the code-breaking dolphin with sci-fi glued onto his head.
It's a mammal.
This movie has a lot of flavor, mostly strawberry batshit.
Hit me.
You may have noticed that I repeatedly called Johnny Mnemonic an action movie with zero discussion of the actual action. Make no mistake, this is an action movie. Dennis Akiyama has that whip laser ring thing that has to be in the Hall of Fame of impractical sci-fi weaponry. Keanu Reeves uses the somatic components of a copyright strike spell. There are shootouts, chases, fight scenes. Dolph Lundgren is hit by a truck. And a Henry. And a dolphin. Oh, that's why he's in this movie. This might sound weird given how I repeatedly stated how much I love this film, but I find the action to be unremarkable and almost perfunctory.
Thank you.
There's a big set-piece gunfight at the climax where the movie literally starts introducing characters on both sides 5 minutes before the scene to create some artificial weight to their impending and inevitable deaths. Guys, we have to blow some shit up. While you're jerking each other off about what it means to be human in a post-human society, our studio is out $26 million. Give me something we can put in the trailer.
Fuckers!
No, while it is definitely an action movie, action is not what makes Johnny Mnemonic special. What is on offer here is the juxtaposition of the headier aspects of William Gibson with over-the-top lunacy that could have only happened in 1995. Johnny Mnemonic is what happens if the Matrix were cool enough to be a shitpost.
Jesus time.